To translate equations, words into an equation, we want to be able to just translate exactly what we see, except when we see the word than. When we see the word than, we're going to flip it. So let's say we don't see the word than in this problem, so we're going to go ahead and just write exactly what we see. So 7 times, and I'm going to use parentheses, a number squared is equals 5 times the difference of k and m. Let's look at this problem. 15 times a number subtracted from 80 is 25. So 15 times a number, now it's not a subtraction, it's actually this is taken away from 80. So I'm going to have to write the 80 first minus the 15n, and is always equals 25. So notice that just because I read it as 15, you need to understand the word from. So we have to take 15 times n from the 80. Now let's translate formulas. Formulas are just equations that we're familiar with. So we're trying to do the area of a triangle. So as the product means multiplication, half length of the base. So we're going to take 1/2 base times height. Because product means multiplication. So half base and height. And we all should be familiar with this one as area of a triangle is this formula. Let's look at the next formula. In a right triangle, the square of the measure, so I'm looking at this problem right here, the square of the measure of the hypotenuse, C, is equal to the sum of the squares of the measures of the legs A and B. So the square of the measure of hypotenuse, so I'm going to go h squared is equal to the sum of the squares of the legs. So if I go a squared plus b squared. And we're familiar with this one as actually c squared, c standing for hypotenuse. So these two are exactly the same formula and same equation. I just used h for hypotenuse because it was written right there. But this is the one that we've used for that formula. So when we're going the opposite direction, we're going to transfer into a sentence. We just want to write it kind of like when we read it, in words. So we're going to go 6 times a number, z, less, which means subtraction, 15 is 45. Next one, we could have 15 is 25 times the square, because it's taken to the second exponent square, of a number u increased by 2. Increased meaning add. Let's look at this problem, which is highly complicated. So we're basically going to take the product mean multiplication of 3/2 less, actually the product of 3/2 of a number r, less meaning subtracts the cube of a number t is 100 32. Most of what you'll need to be able to do is do translating a sentence into an equation. So we will just want to be able to do this again. So 3 times r less than, now here's that word than. Because than is there, we need to actually write this number that's after it first. So it becomes 15 minus 3r equals 6. So than means to take whatever's after it and write it first, because the less than, the 3r is being taken away from the 15. So let's look at our next one. Sum means add. So we have q plus 4 times a letter T is 29. So you have to know these words that mean adding, subtracting, multiplying. So less means subtraction, sum means add. So we have a number squared plus 12. So a number squared plus 12 is the same as the quotient. Quotient means division, and division is the first thing you see, P over 4. Remember, we write division as a fraction. The next one is half of J. Half of J minus 5 equals, sum means add, so K plus 13. We're going to translate these formulas, and some of them you know, so let's do 11. The perimeter of a rectangle is 5 times the length of each side. So the perimeter of a rectangle, and a rectangle has a width and it has a length. So I use W for its width and length L. Let's look at 12. 12. Area of a circle is the product, meaning multiplication, of pi times r squared. And then our last one, 13. 13. 4 times pi times the radius squared equals the surface area of a sphere. So this is what's called surface area, SA.